In the 1966 film Grand Prix, it all comes down to the last race at Monza. So it's rather fitting today that we wrap up at the Temple of Speed. Let's get ready for the PCA Sim Racing Series 12 Sport Class Finale. You'll see it all live here on RaceSpotTV. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Ewan O'Leary. And behind the scenes is our director, Ramiro Cisneros. Well, Ewan, this place, as I said, is called the Temple of Speed, and honestly, it lives up to its name.
It certainly does. A few technical corners, big braking zones as well, providing great overtaking opportunity. But the thing this circuit is most certainly most well known for is the speed. It is not the oval that it used to be, the concrete oval. However, a lot of that character, it feels, has still remained. Besides, of course, those slow chicanes that provided so much action for us last week.
Indeed. Let's hope it'll be a little bit cleaner, because a reminder that Charlie Mobile is sponsoring the Series 12 Clean Driver Award. Charlie Mobile is providing the winner with an Apple iPhone 16 and a year of cell service. A big thank you to Charlie Mobile. And speaking of that Clean Driver Award, why don't we take a look at how the points for that sits? Because coming into this, Foley is... this is the overall points that we're looking at up first here. We'll start with that. Aaron Nations right now up at the top ahead of Mark Foley, who is fighting for that Clean Drivers Championship. But Aaron Nations only needs to finish 8th. That's a simple way of thinking of it if you don't want to try and do calculations on this. 8th or better, and Aaron Nations will be crowned the champion. That is unofficially, of course, until the race control goes over the results and make sure they're happy with everything that they see. But we'll watch and see if Aaron does that or not, because he's finished on the podium every single time except one, and that is the drop week that he's got right now. As for the clean driver standings, as I was saying, Mark Foley is way ahead of everybody else. 3 incidents over the course of the season. Now, they also have drop weeks in this, and the one he did have gave him 11 incidents, but while that is a big add, everybody else also was dropping incidents on others, so it's still looking very good for Mark Foley. Eskridge could maybe overtake him, but he needs a clean race and he needs Mark to have a bit of a bad one. And then, of course, Nations and Ferrer are the only other two realistically within a shot. There's no specific margin in terms of points, but we'll give you that update once we get to the end. Real quick, though, Ewan, would you mind just talking us through what it's like a lap around here?
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned that the speed, you can maybe see it a little bit more pronounced here. Long run down in towards the Rattrapillo chicane. That's going to be a big moment on the opening lap of the race, especially. Very tight through there. And then turn, or through the Curva Grande, I should say. Inside line, very much where you want to be. It is a flat-out corner before the second chicane, the Della Roggia, which is equally tight, but a little bit faster than the first chicane. Then the two corners, the two Lesmos, which are most like a normal racetrack, I would describe them as, a double right-hander. Then another long run down towards Ascari, which is the most difficult of the 3 chicanes on the lap, and then the flowing Parabolica at the very end. It is, as I've said last week, probably not the most interesting circuit to drive on your own, to be honest, but racing around here is very exciting indeed. The chicanes have a lot of action into them, and the battling you can have through there because of the long straights and the slipstream is very interesting indeed.
Honestly, last week I was more impressed with the fact that you knew the name of Seraglio, because I'm a nerd and I didn't even know that last week. But as we watch the first of the qualifying times come in, Aaron Nations, the quickest, not too great of a surprise on a 151.5. They get 3 complete laps that they are allowed to set out here. Once you take those 3 laps, you can't put any more times on the board, but you have to do it within 10 minutes or else you're going to be removed from the session. Once those 10 minutes are over, everybody is plucked out and we're sent to the grid. So you got to get it done with enough time left. Charlie Ferrer up there, only 3, make it 0.04 of a second off of Aaron Nations after their first lap around. So Charlie keeping within well range of our points leader.
Yep, the two at the top, Nations and and Ferrer doing rather well early on. Unfortunately, at Willow Springs, Ferrer got out of championship contention, so it is only the top 5 we believe who are in contention, although maybe 4. We'll see how many start the race when we get to it in a few moments' time. Over the line there for Jet Gurpino. That's a good improvement for him, up to 3rd place. Here is another one of those contenders, now for Abu Haka, although, as we were talking about beforehand, he is rather depending on a lot of drivers finishing ahead of Aaron Nations.
Exactly. Well, and not only that, but he needs Aaron Nations to essentially trip right off of the go. Because we do have a minimum amount of points that you can earn with how many drivers have shown up, which I believe last we saw was about 25 drivers, and that comes out to 32 points, which is more than his drop score even for Aaron Nations. That tells you how bad that one race was, but it really was a fluke compared to all the others he had, as we watch Abu Haka come down the back straightaway into Parabolica. He's not got a time on the board as the first one got deleted. He must have had an off track somewhere. This one's going to be important, especially if he also botches this one. He definitely needs the last lap to count.
Yeah, certainly does. It's one of those things you can actually get very easily around here at Monza, actually, perhaps more easily than a lot of the other circuits we've had this season, where running off the road is very much a sign of things that have gone wrong, really. Around here, it can be a sign that you're trying to gain an advantage, which, of course, iRacing will stop you from doing. Alberto Fonseca looks like he's dealing with a lot of understeer there through the Parabolica corner. No idea what's going on here, but his car didn't quite look right there. Anyway, he's got over the line, and he's doing okay now over the line as Mehmet Karacay goes over the line and sets the new fastest time.
Yeah, it looks like that's the first lap he's had count. That's only 21st for him. A bit low for what we're used to seeing from Mehmet, though. Wonder if he'll get a better final lap to count out there. No, excuse me. Oh, I just didn't realize Karacay went up to the top. I thought I was clicked on the wrong car. I didn't realize that he had taken that pole away from Aaron Nations.
Yeah, only in the last couple of moments he's taken that by a 10.5 or so. This is a bit of a surprise. Mark Foley is down in 13th at the moment. 1 point, where is he? Sorry, not even 1 point. 0.5 seconds off of pole. It's quite remarkable, actually, how close this session is. This is much more like what you come to expect from Monza, actually. But we didn't really get close qualifying sessions as much as I was expecting last week. Foley, though, really does need a big improvement here, because otherwise he will be starting right in the mid-pack at a circuit you certainly don't want to be.
Yeah, even in his clean driver championship, he's going to try and go for, I assume, starting in the mid-pack here at Monza is going to be very difficult to stay out of trouble, especially from what we saw with the pro class. He improves, does Foley. Where does that jump him? Up to 5th. Woof, big leap from the 316. And so that will get him, hopefully, out of most of the trouble. Aaron Nations took the top spot back from Karacay with a 51.1. So he's now about 2/10 ahead of the 78, and the 78 is parked it on track, so he's not going to be able to respond. Charlie Ferrer has already taken his 3rd lap. He can't respond. Mike Sachs is a big maybe on that. He's on his final lap right now.
Yeah, we're getting to that point in the session now where people are starting to complete their sessions, and we're not getting any lap times anymore from them. Aaron Nations, I believe, is one of those who is trundling around at the moment, possibly with a pole position. Jake Gurpino, meanwhile, moves up the order. He goes to 2nd place, just 0.07 of a second off pole.
Wow, impressive stuff there. Sachs is about 2/10 up on his time right now. That's not going to be good enough for pole, but could leap him up to the 2nd row as he's been bumped down to the 3rd now in that 5th position. About a minute left. That's plenty for him to make it to the line in time. This is Aaron Nations, as we said, who's already taken his 3 laps. So that 51.1 is the quickest he will see out there. And it's now for everybody else to try and match it. I'm watching Sachs cross the line, and it's a 51.3. 3rd place for Saxtein.
That's a good time and exactly where you want to be, really, the inside of row 2. I think ideally, especially if you're in that top 5 or so, you do want to be on the inside line, or even in first third or fifth. I think that does benefit you a little bit, but of course it does switch back to the left pretty quickly when you're getting the start of this race. So it's probably making little difference really, but we'll see as Aaron Nations pulls into the pit lane. It looks like he has taken pole as the seconds tick by, and I don't believe anybody really seriously challenging him for now.
No, everybody who's out there has taken their final available laps. So the grid is effectively set here for our race today. Of course, they'll have their 5-minute warm-up, but that will give us a chance to go through that starting order for today's event. And definitely some interesting results on that one, at least a little bit farther down the field. But up at the top, Aaron Nations doing what you tend to expect him to do with the pole position. Jake Gerbino starting from second next to him. Mike Sackstein will be P3 with Mehmet Karachai in fourth. Charlie Fair will start fifth today, flanked by Mark Foley in P6. Jarawala starts in seventh as Chad Casion will be P8, and then Ben Bulkley will be in ninth. Avijit Barua will be in the 10th spot as Casey McDonald starts 11th, and the top 12 will round it out by Randy Lervold.
Patrick Gill is in 13th ahead of Peter Yerkse, with Neven Abahaka disappointed probably with 15th place. Ken Eskridge will be disappointed with 16th as well. That is third and fifth in the championship, sharing row 8. Alberto Fonseca and Kevin Schultz are the last drivers within a second of pole. Andrew Long was 1.1 back ahead of Anke Bergson. Chris Kostis, the first driver outside of that top 20, with Patricio Torrigiani in 22nd ahead of James Legelt, Carl Boccieri, and the final driver on the grid, Sean Bailey, who I would suggest didn't quite get a representative time on the board.
Yeah, him being 3 seconds off the next car. It does look like something must have happened out there. We'll have to dig into that and see what went down. But before we get to the racing, we want to remind you to keep your racing clean and your body cleaner with mohandsome.com men's skincare and grooming products, something you'll likely need after working up a sweat in your sim rig. Their products are designed and manufactured right here in the USA. Made from natural ingredients with low fragrance, Mo Handsome products are filled with good stuff to keep your skin and hair healthy. These race-winning natural formulas in the sports car liveried containers will appeal to grizzled veterans and fresh-faced hot shoes alike. Use promo code GOMOPCA to get a very special 25% off your purchases at mohandsome.com. Grab one today as a holiday gift. As we mentioned, we have our warm-up, and we're just about halfway through that. This doesn't mean much other than giving drivers a chance to do their last little bits of practice. But what's interesting compared to the previous two races we saw last week here, Ewan, is this is now a fixed setup. So there can be no difference in the downforce on these cars. Everybody is going to be on a level playing field on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure what difference that is going to make round here. It might actually make passing a little bit easier because, of course, last week, when you're able to change the setup, you can change the aerodynamic balance of these cars, which affects how fast you can go in a straight line. Obviously, a very important variable when you're thinking about Monza. With that stripped away, the slipstreams all of a sudden will maybe have more prominence, and maybe we'll see a little bit more passing as a result. There are the track conditions. 19 degrees Celsius is, I've forgotten what the calculation that the correspondent says. I think it's about 60s for those of you in Fahrenheit land. Yep. There we go. So there you go. Thank you. It is December after all, and it is early in the morning, so that's to be expected, I guess. One more thing as well is that it's not week 13 anymore in iRacing, so something that was suggested and maybe batted around by people after the somewhat carnage of the pro race, we've got to be honest, 7 days ago, was that, well, a lot of things in our racing changed just yesterday, and not a lot of people will have had very much time to deal with it and get used to it since all that was implemented. So that's also stripped away. These changes with iRacing now, with the changes they've made to these cars and indeed the service as a whole, are now a week old at least, and you can assume that a lot of these drivers will have a relative a bank of experience now with this new look iRacing compared to last week, where it was very, very new indeed.
Exactly. One of the excuses go out the window this time around is we watch Casion circulate around through the parabolica and on to the main straight once again. About 30 seconds left in this one, much like we saw in the previous two races as well, if you did miss them. It's quite foggy out here at Monza in the Royal Park, so it won't affect visibility too much, although our long shots down the straight will make it a bit tricky at times to identify some of the cars. But the braking zones won't or should not be an issue for the cars and the drivers themselves, as looks like we're just about ready to wrap this up. Go racing for the last time in Series 12 for the sport class. And the big thing about that here, Ewan, is this means if you've got something to prove, this is it. It's now or never.
It certainly is, and there is a lot on the line. We're putting what is on the line into context, I think, at the start of this race. Aaron Nation still hasn't got the championship wrapped up, unlike what we saw on Thursday last week, where the winner of the championship was already known before the race began. Aaron Nation still has work to do. He has to finish in the top 8 here tonight, and there's nothing that the others can do. If he's outside of the top 8, then the likes of Mark Foley have a chance to overtake him, as well as Kenneth Eskridge and Rex Jorawala as well. However, there is also, especially for Mark Foley, the Clean Driver Award to think about here, which could well affect his ability to go for the points with Aaron Nations. It will be very interesting to see, because Foley is currently leading the way and he can secure the Clean Driver Award here tonight.
Indeed. And now I'll have to double check on some of this information, but I believe, as I understand it, with the drop weeks here in the Clean Driver, that means that at worst, we'll see Foley get 11 drop or incident points added to his. So that comes out to 14 that he will have. So at worst, 14, and everybody else who is trying to beat him will try and have to keep it under that, which that's going to be tricky for those coming in on 11 incidents.
Well, exactly. But also, you've got to remember not only the individual clean driver standings, but actually the overall clean driver standings as well. Kevin Jokel was closest at 8 points at the start of this round of events. So if Mark Foley can keep it below 5 tonight, then he will be absolutely sure of the Clean Driver Award with even one race to go.
All right. Coming down the back straightaway towards Parabolica, being led by the pace car. Nations starting out where he needs to, up on that top spot. And if you missed us talking about it earlier, remember, he has only finished off the podium once in Series 12. That was the drop week that he has currently in his pocket. Otherwise, he has been up among the top 3 every single race. So expecting him to finish 8th or lower is a bit of a tall ask for everybody out there. Here we go. Pace car is in. We have to wait for the signal from the flag stand before they are allowed to accelerate. So everybody has to keep a consistent pace speed here. They're all being very patient as it's a long run down to that flag stand. And there it is. Green flag is out. They're on their way up to the Rettifilio. The question is, are they going to be clean? We're already seeing some 3 wide back there behind our leaders coming into the braking zone. Some of them backing out of it early, not wanting to risk it, knowing things can so easily become a horrible pileup into here. It's looking pretty good in the back of the field here, Ewan, and I think we're going to make it through.
Oh, other than one spinner and a bit of contact in the midfield, but we get away with it. Other than that, wasn't anything too major. Charlie Ferro, I think it was, one of them who spun around. It was also a very good start for Jake Gerbino, by the way, on the outside line. Aaron Nations immediately displaced, and here goes Mehmet Karachai as well. Already Nations down to 3rd after qualifying on pole. Not the start he wanted, but he's kept it clean through the opening couple of corners.
Yeah, just had that bad exit coming out side by side, fighting with Gerbino. Now Gerbino's going to try and run away. Karachai as well up into that 2nd spot. Saxton in behind him in 4th, but Nation's still in a winning position. It was just, unfortunately, just a complete spin around for Charlie Ferrer. Got on the throttle a little too hard and looped that thing in front of a field, barreling down on him out of the corner. He actually got it going pretty quickly. He's still in 15th place right now as we watch them hit Ascari at speed for the first time.
Yeah, he was hit by someone on the exit of turn 2, so not sure who it was, but somebody effectively came through and righted them. Righted Charlie Farrow there and got him back going again. As long as he hasn't got any damage because of that contact, then he will carry on pretty swiftly. But that question remains over that damage. This is what happened. I think he dropped it on his own, to be honest. He did. On cold rear tyres, he gets hit there by, it was Abu Haka. Oh dear, not a good start for him at all. Nathan Abu Haka crashed straight into the lime green Porsche, and surely one of those two will have a little bit of damage at least.
Yeah, that was unfortunate at the start of a race like this where you need that car to be in pristine condition. That was a big sin from Aaron Nations. He goes on the side of Karachai and is facing the wrong way. Has it all come undone? Can he get it going? He's outside the top 8 now, and he's trying to get the car back on track and rolling safely. He is going to. But disaster here for Aaron Nations at the start of this one, while Rex Jarawala just got a black flag.
What a huge, huge moment this is in this race. Aaron Nations down to 15th place, and as things stand, he would lose the championship. He needs to gain some positions back again after that spin at turn 1. A needless attempt at an overtake, you've got to say, as Chris Costis, by the way, goes up ahead of him. He immediately recovers 3 points, but it's a needless move to make when you're Aaron Nations in that situation, and unfortunately, it's undone him just for the moment.
And that's not even touching on the fact that he might get a penalty for this. He sent it in so deep. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Race Control did hand him a drive-through for that one. They're usually pretty strict about car contact, and it's hard to view that any other way than Nations going in too hard.
It is, yeah, I agree. So there could be a secondary thing to talk about there, but we'll deal with that when we get there, if we get there, of course. Nations now is on the back of Charlie Farrow, who's recovered to get just up in front of him right now. So Jake Gabino's got a very big lead. Then Mike Sachs, who's now ahead of Mehmet Karcha, I think after a slowdown penalty. And then Mark Foley, who's in 4th place. And unbelievably, he's in championship winning position right now.
Wow, the 316 doing everything he needs to do. A gain of 2. Chad Casey on behind him as well, up 3 spots. Casey McDonald up 5. So there's some big gainers here at the start of the race. We look for the braking zone coming down into the Redifilio. We might see behind this pair a little bit of a battle happening for Casey McDonald's. As you can see, side-by-side action between himself and Rex Jarawala, who still needs to serve his black flag.
This is what happened to Chris Costis, which gave Aaron Nations one of his positions back in towards the second chicane. He went too deep into the first bit, bounced over the second bit, and as he's still bouncing, tries to get onto the power. The Porsche never likes that, and so he spins around. Meanwhile, Aaron Nations has gotten past Charlie Farrow because Farrow has decided to come in and make a pit stop. That car must be damaged after the contact at the opening couple of corners, so Nations is back into championship winning position by just 1 singular point.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if that is him trying to repair damage or if he is serving a penalty. I think it is repair damage, as you alluded to, because he's been in there for a while now. So he might have to come back in and serve that penalty later. Well, we are not getting the clean race for some of the drivers that we were hoping for. Others, though, making very good use of this one as we fly down along with Casey McDonald's now ahead of Jarawala and looking forward already to see if he can catch up to Mark Foley. Ooh, but we got a battle for second. Saxtein is in trouble with Mehmet Karachai trying to retake that second place.
I wonder what Karachai was going to do, actually, in terms of, is he going to try and make an overtake? Is he going to try and help Saxon and work together to catch Gerbino? Well, we've got our answer now. Karachai moves to the outside at the Parabolica. Oh, and he can't really go back from this. He's ignited the fire, and now he's got to try and put it out if he can. Outside line at Parabolica. It's going to be a drag race over the line, but Sachs with a better exit is going to have his nose ahead as they cross the start-finish line. Karachai's going to have to get back in the slipstream, tuck back out again and try again at turn 1.
You got a little bit of that slipstream to help him out down into turn 1, and as they break for the Redifilio, he's going to be able to make the pass. He almost got squeezed off the course there through Parabolica, but I think Mike left him enough room that he should be okay, but certainly got dicey for a moment as he tried to pinch him.
We've got a couple of penalties coming in, by the way, Joe, and I'm just trying to see whether they are for Aaron Nason or not. The number 7 has got a penalty. That's why Rex Jerowala just came in. That was for changing lane before the start-finish line. And the 28 has got a penalty for a self-spin causing an incident. That is that Charlie Ferrer?
That's Ferrer.
Yeah, it is indeed. So those two have got penalties so far. Those are orange zone violations, by the way.
Those not familiar, the orange zone is an area of the track on lap 1 where drivers will be penalized extra hard for any infringements. So that's where you've seen that for both of them. The battle carries on for second place. Mike back into that P2. Re-overtook Karachai for that position. They'll break down into Ascari, and Mehmet tries to set him up once again. And what happened to Sean Bailey here? This is also into the Parabolica. Just goes straight off, and he reaches the gravel and, unfortunately, the tires. So he'll get a little bit of damage on the nose from that one.
Certainly will, and that was slightly odd actually to lose your braking point so easily down there, side by side for second and for 9th place here as Gill versus Abu Hakir goes on into the final corner. Patrick Gill hanging on from Nathan Abu Hakir quite well into the final corner on this occasion. They'll run out side by side, as will Karachai and Mike Sachs as well up front here in the battle for second position. So it's all going on here, but the battle for second is meaning that effectively everyone's getting backed up here, and there's a really long train starting to develop. Sachs down the inside of Karachai, and he gets back into second place.
Lots of swapping back and forth between that pair. They seem eager to have that fresh air in front of them, but it is allowing Foley, Casion, McDonald to just build up behind them, and Gerbino especially to run away. Oh, does the 78 want another go? Yes, he does. Coming down into the second chicane now. He'll get to the inside. He's awful shallow into there, though. Oh, but Mike outbraked himself. He might lose a position as Mehmet carries on.
And right in front of Foley. Sachs came out straight in front of Foley there, and I'd be amazed if both of them get away without slow-down penalties that they've got to serve, to be honest. Foley now is on the outside of Casey McDonald, who's stuffing it down the inside. Foley really wanting to avoid contact tonight, of course, because of the Clean Driver Award. He's done that so far, and he has hung on to 4th place in the process as well.
Sachs did get a slowdown penalty, but he served it already. So
wow,
just maybe getting a little tricky there with the other cars and kind of blocking their way to serve his without losing that position. But it was nip and tuck, as that was a mistake behind him for Chad Casion. You could see now he's dealing with Ben Bulkley, who goes off course.
Yeah, there was a bit of a shoulder barge there between the two of them. Ben Buckley coming off second best, and he drops down to 9th now, with Aaron Nations back into the top 10, by the way, in the background. Side by side between Casion and Barua now. So the battle for second was previously creating a big train and backing everybody up behind. Now the battle for 6th place is backing up a train behind. Barua versus Casion. Now Patrick Gill is trying to come through on the other side as well. Ben Buckley closing back in again. Aaron Nations as well. This is a place that Aaron Nations did not want to be tonight, but that early incident has sort of forced him into this position.
You can see a lot of battles in front of him, though. That will help him make up some time, maybe get an opportunity as well behind him. The car just overshot. Holy cow. Yeah, you're right. Alberto managing to avoid a worse incident there. He did clatter into a couple cars, but thankfully didn't take anybody out.
No, he got away with it on that occasion, so he's pretty lucky on that occasion that wasn't worse than it certainly could have been in this big group for 6th place. It has calmed down a little bit now, though, and I think the drivers in this group be pretty pleased about that, because it's been a fairly frantic opening 10 minutes to this one.
Has it ever? We still have all 25 cars out there, and this is what happened with Fonseca. Looked like he made some contact with another car and just tried to avoid the worst of it. Still, unfortunately, making contact with a couple others as he played bowling ball into the Retifilia.
There was all sorts of stuff going on down there in the braking zone. People braking late all over the place there. So not sure how that's all happened, but anyway, they've all fired in, and thankfully on this occasion, gotten away with it, but that was really messy stuff down there at turn 1. Patrick Gill, meanwhile, is side by side again with Ben Buckley now for 8th place on this occasion. The field going to get spread apart by all this, although that was good late braking on the outside, actually, from Ben Buckley, who hangs on to 8th place.
Really smart stuff for sure. Here's another look at one of the cars. Wow. Trying to figure out who this is we're looking at. But man, that was very smart. Unfortunately, it'll cost them a few positions having to give time back for cutting the course. But the 9 definitely avoided the worst of it. That's Andrew Long, who did a great job in a very tight little situation.
Yeah, certainly. It was all going on down there. And thankfully, most people seem to get through it. Aaron Nation's closing in now on Patrick Gill. That's what we just saw, along with Gill actually catching on Ben Buckley, I should say, who really made the error through that corner. You can just see that gap developing in front of him. This is what happened to Kevin Schulte, meanwhile, out of the parabolic. And not a spin we saw too much of, actually, in the last week's racing. However, that was not a great rejoin, I'm afraid, after an unusual spin, certainly compared to last week's races.
Yeah, not common that cars spin going in the middle or coming out of the Curva Grande, but looks like he has managed to do that. So we'll see if he gets penalized for that rejoin as we check out with Kevin Schultz into the Rettifilio, and, well, just backing it way up before he gets it going.
Spinning again there, so possibly down to the damage, I suppose, as Nations gets down the inside of Gill into Ascari. No, he didn't quite do it. Probably the wise thing at this stage, to be honest, to not be firing down the inside of someone at Ascari. At the moment, he's got 10 points buffer over Mark Foley, who is by far and away his most realistic rival for the championship here tonight.
2 more positions and he can clinch it. That's assuming he doesn't get a penalty. The stewards have not said anything on it. They did say they're going to take a look at it, but we have not heard anything more. So that dark cloud looms over the head of a potential championship winner, with the number 13 doing his best to pull a Sebastian Vettel and come back through the field and finish up his fight for the crown as we come back into the braking for the Rettifilio once again between Barua, Casion, and Bulkley, while Torrigiani unfortunately has to cut the course going through Ascari, and then he loses it on the exit too.
Oh, he was smacked by someone there who also hit the wall. Not sure who that was, but somebody smacked the rear end, and you just see them getting away again there. As he was sliding around, he hit the rear of him and off. Mike Stacks goes off the road. Meanwhile, up over the curb and back on again quite aggressively. He's going to drop way down the order as a result of that, putting Mark Foley up into 3rd place. Hearing, by the way, that he's the only driver on this circuit right now, according to the admins, who are the ones who can see this thing, the only driver who hasn't got any instant points so far in this race.
It amazes me how clean he can race this car. Everybody around him has racked up at least some. So here's what happened to Mike. And he avoids the first sausage curve mostly, but then absolutely bounds over the other. That's another one of those features that you got to watch out for at this track. They, like you said, they're aggressive and they can do some damage.
They really can, yeah. You've got to be very, very careful you don't jump over them like that. But because he wasn't intending to, just broke far too late on the way down there in towards the second chicane. To be honest, I think I have noticed Mark Foley not getting instant points so far, in the way that he's just not been driving very aggressively in a way that you would expect from someone in a points battle. This is what happened to James Legault, by the way, in the battle there, or the Torrigiani spin, I should say. There goes Torrigiani spinning. He just clips the rear end of him and he gets spun around into the wall very hard.
You can see there have been so many cars through there. There's a lot of dirt and gravel that has been spread in that area. The cars do have their grip affected, and I wonder if that's why we're seeing some incidences. Just not expecting it to be like that down into there. They're going to get back single file out of Rettifilio.
Side by side as well between Nations and Gill again. Nations was hoping that pass was done. It is finally now. He wasn't expecting to get dived on by Gill there, but this battle up front here was very nearly disastrous, actually, as Casion was going down the inside, very nearly T-boned Sachs, but he's got away with it. Now Barua is trying to overtake. Mike Sachs can't quite do it, though, into the second chicane. Here comes Gill again. No, he can't quite do it either. They all get single file in time for the second chicane.
Twice, though, we've seen Mike outbrake himself coming into the De La Roja, so we know that's a bit of a weak point for him at this stage. Barua still hanging out behind him. Casion, who we ride on board with, in 7th, but he is essentially 4th in a train of 5, being led by that 599 with Ben Bulkley in behind him and Aaron Nations bringing up the rear of the train. So my goodness, we've got quite an interesting story brewing, and Nations is actually taking a big look but decides not to try and effect a pass.
No, I think it's the best thing at the moment just to stay where he is. It's a really volatile group, though, and really not where you want to be if you're in a championship battle. He'll be pleased he's got rid of Gill for now, but I can't see that lasting very long because these battles surely are going to continue on, and that surely means that we're going to see the group packing up all over again. Wide in front of him there for Ben Bulkley. Surely Nations is going to have a go here, but Bulkley looks like he's coming into pit lane. Right, no, he's just staying inside for some weird reason. So he carries on, but Nations just closes in. Here goes Sachs on the front straight, under pressure again from Barua and Casion.
I think he's far enough ahead. He shouldn't have to worry, but deep on the brakes for Barua. He's going to look for the inside. He locks him up, and he's going to have to take the escape road. So that's lost positions for him. Mike survives another one. Chad Casion probably going to get an easy spot. Bulkley goes by, and Nations is now into 8th place. Where he sits, he would clinch the championship.
Yeah, that is wherever Mark Foley finishes if he's in the top 8, Aaron Nations. So that is a huge, huge moment for him. But we've already seen things go slightly wrong for him tonight. We know that this championship is still very much up in the air here with 42 minutes to go. It's been a dramatic first 18 minutes to this race. Get the feeling that the drama is going to continue on throughout this one.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it's not going to be over until that checkered flag falls, so it could all go wrong again. And of course, even once it does finish, we should reiterate, this is provisional. He would unofficially be champion until it is confirmed by the race stewards. This is going to be close down into the Ascari chicane between Casion and Bulkley, but it looks like he'll be able to manage it. So once they exit out of there, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, mohandsome.com. Keep your racing clean and your body cleaner with them. They are the men's skincare and grooming products which you'll need after working up a sweat in your sim rig. Their products are designed and manufactured right here in the USA, made from natural ingredients with low fragrance. Mohandsome products are filled with good stuff to keep your skin and hair healthy. These race-winning natural formulas in the sports car liveried containers will appeal to grizzled veterans and fresh-faced hot shoes alike. Use code GOMOPCA to get a very special 25% off your purchases at mohandsome.com. Grab one as a holiday gift today. So we watch for the braking once again coming into the first chicane. Very popular place to try and pass, but not popular enough for anybody to poke their nose this time.
Not this time around, not in the top 10 anyway. There's a bit of movement going on in the background, but nothing too major. And they stay single file for the first time in quite some time, actually. At the front of this group, though, now is Mark Foley, who, again, I maintain, I think he's driving very, very conservatively, actually, to make sure that he keeps below those incident points and, of course, securing himself provisionally the Clean Driver Award for this season. In case you're unaware, that's for the overall Clean Driver Award, which goes through all 4 of the classes. If you're wondering how we can say with such certainty with racing going on tomorrow, well, if Mark Foley is still in the lead at the end of tonight, then having completed all of his races, there's no way he can secure more incident points, which would take him below anybody else, if that makes any sense. So he would secure it with still a night to go as things stand. But I think he's driving so within himself to secure this.
Very much so. By the way, the Scorpion did indeed have another sting in its tail. Aaron Nations has been given a black flag for a dive bomb causing an accident. He is going to have to serve that drive-through, and I'm not sure where that's going to take him, but this is a track where they are going at a high speed past that pit lane. He's going to lose a lot of time.
He is going to drop into about 18th, I think, maybe just behind Randy Lervold, but it's going to be back end of this top 20. Just in front of him, Mark Foley, though, is being overtaken. This is only going to help Aaron Nations in his quest to win this championship, despite things going wrong for the moment. He is going into the pit lane right now. Mark Foley, though, is losing 4th place, and this would be pretty disastrous for his championship hopes if he does lose this place. In towards turn 1, down the inside for Mike Sachs. It's late on the brakes. Look how much space Foley gives him. He can't really afford a 4X, to be honest, Mark Foley. And so he exits the first corner in 5th place, all of a sudden knowing his championship situation is even more difficult now.
Foley has got to decide if he wants his cake and to eat it too. Does he want both championships in, well, not the same night, but at the same time, I guess, if you will? Can he both take the driver's title and the clean driver's title at the same time? How aggressive does he dare get to fight the others around him?
Yeah, that's really key at the moment. If he finishes 5th, Aaron Nations only needs 14th, and he's only 17th right now. So Foley needs a better finish than this, realistically, to be honest, because 14th is only, 5 seconds up the road. You get the feeling in nearly 40 minutes he could do that.
Definitely, especially what we saw from Nations before, just making pass after pass, getting back up to 8th place when he needed to quickly after an initial little incident up there. He does still need to do his pit stop. Of course, they have a scheduled stop in this race, and with this being a very thirsty track, it's a slightly narrower pit window than what we've seen in the past. They're not going to be getting down to 10 minutes to go. It'll be more like 20 to 15 minutes left on the clock when you'll see them in.
I'd be surprised if they go much further past 20, by the way, on the basis of last week. It could be really quite early, as that was 16th place, by the way, for Aaron Nations. If Mark Foley loses another place, by the way, then Nations only needs 15th place. Foley has got to get a podium hit. That would force Nations into the top 12, and that could be more difficult. But the way it's going at the moment, he clearly wants the clean driver award, and I can absolutely understand that. But if he just drove a little bit faster, he could have both. So, it's difficult to say that to him right now, because he probably doesn't have the access to the quite calculations he might do if he wasn't driving. But he is driving, and that's a very difficult calculation to make in your mind when you are concentrating on that as well.
Yeah, nice little battle between Bulkley and Abu Haka coming out of the first chicane. Inside line for Bulkley means he's going to get ahead, but now it switches back into De La Roja. Abu Haka has his nose in there, a little bit deep from Ben, and that's going to cause a compromise off the exit of the corner. Nathan cuts back, but he's once again on the wrong side of things as they enter the Lesmos double right-hander. And that is, unfortunately, going to be a spin for Bulkley, seemingly out of nowhere.
Oh, and he's in the middle of the road with smoke in the air as well. Needs to be careful. Now he can get off the road and the racing line. Although now he does finally to the left-hand side. And guess who's going to come around the corner now? Aaron Nations. That might be one of his easier positions that he makes up here in this race. Is he going to get there? It looks like he has got ahead of Ben Bulkley. So 15th place. Mark Foley at the moment is still doing okay. But if he loses a position, he goes down to 6th. Nations would already be back in championship winning position.
Whew, this has been a wild race to watch in terms of that championship story. I just can't believe how many twists and turns we've been getting out of it as we come back onto the main straight once again in the fight between Foley and Casion. Casion is hot on his tail, and he's got a nice little bit of draft on the main straight. Can he try and make a move down into the first corner? Foley doesn't try to defend too hard, although he is going to try and hover in the middle of the track to dissuade Chad, which works. Chad backs out of it.
Yeah, he's done some sort of soft defending there, really, without being too aggressive. He's been pretty effective, actually, at keeping Chad Casion behind him, which is exactly what he's aiming for. This is what happened to Ben Bulkley. No, there wasn't any contact. Well, that's a bit of a weird spin. You don't see that very often through Lesmo on. And then what happened afterwards is even weirder. The fact he lit up the rear tyres made his spin even worse. If he just let off the throttle, he could have 360'd himself back around the right way again, but he decided to light up the rear tyres and spin himself the wrong way.
Yeah, it cost him a bit of grip and all the gravel, and as well some time to get the car going. Hopefully he didn't drop too much dirt out there, as there's definitely been some spots on this track where we're seeing cars constantly dragging that back onto the racing line. We're back with Foley and Casey on coming out of the second Lesmo. Doesn't look like Chad's near enough out of there to try and get something down the inside into Ascari, but he does seem to favor the run into the first corner where the car looks strong.
Into the Ascari chicane as he goes again. And so far holding off Chad Casey on here, Mark Foley quite well. I'm wondering whether he's got something up his sleeve in the pit stop cycle, because he's been driving so, in my opinion, within himself. I wonder whether he is saving a bit of fuel on the side as well. Now, as I mentioned last week, the fuel didn't really go very far at all, because it was barely past 20 minutes and everyone had gone into the pit lane to make their stops, whereas in some of the other races, like Barber, for example, the first race of the season, people were going to as near to 10 minutes to go in the race. So it's very, very different round here at Monza. Will that be something that Mark Foley can draw on a little bit later on? Because right now the situation does look a little bit bleak for him.
Car exiting out of the pits in front of him, that's Alberto Fonseca. I think he was repairing some damage and may have been a scheduled stop. I'm not entirely sure, but he's returned back and is now kind of in front of this group. Mike Sachs is going to just go on around him. Got a little battle farther down for 13th, Andrew Long and Chris Costas. And if they would fight a little more, Aaron Nations wouldn't be too sad, because he's the next one behind them.
Oh, that was very wide indeed for Chad Casey. He was on the outside of Mark Foley there into the second chicane. So that was all going on, as the battle for 13th is as well. And you're right, this does benefit Nations, although he just backs out there. Looking down the inside on that occasion was Chris Costas on Andrew Long. Costas backing out certainly helped Long and indeed not Nations, but you would expect Costas to be able to make this move at some point. He dropped down the order very early on due to a spin earlier in the race.
Showing Costas is up 7 from where he started as well. So it's been a pretty good one for him.
He's gone forwards and backwards. I remember him going off the road. So, that's a pretty unbelievable job from him, really, to be up so many after issues earlier.
Oh, the every which way elevator of Chris Costas today. So as we hop on board with Casey on, he's got a good run, but again, maybe a bit timid, although it is into Parabolica. That's a tough place to try and affect a pass. Car behind them is a lapped car, so that's not for position. That's Fonseca, who we had mentioned a little bit earlier. He did a good job getting out of everybody's way, and it was a much better run off of the final turn for Mark Foley. He gets himself out of arm's reach from Chad.
Change for position, meanwhile, further down in ninth. You might be able to see them just about through the fog in the background. Peter Yerkser versus Ken Eskridge, as Nathan Abuhaka becomes the first driver, I think, to make a scheduled pit stop. Anyway, just about on the halfway mark. That's Yerkser getting through into ninth place. Eskridge trying to hold on today, by the way, to his third place in the championship from Rex Jerewala and Nathan Abuhaka. Jerewala, though, is not having a very good day and is actually in more threat of going backwards, with Abuhaka just up ahead of him, although he has pitted now and drops down.
It looks like Abuhaka is going to emerge back out around 19th as we ride on board with Casey on once more. Another reminder, keep your racing clean and your body cleaner with mohandsome.com men's skincare and grooming products, something you'll likely need after working up a sweat in your sim rig. Their products are designed and manufactured right here in the USA. Made from natural ingredients with low fragrance, Mo Handsome products are filled with good stuff to keep your skin and hair healthy. These race-winning natural formulas in the sports car liveried containers will appeal to grizzled veterans and fresh-faced hot shoes alike. Use promo code GOMOPCA to get a very special 25% off your purchase at mohandsome.com. Grab one as a holiday gift today. So we made it halfway through this, and considering everything that happened in the first half of the race, that was practically a full race worth of things going on. I don't know what else we could have come around in this half to make it any crazier.
Exactly. I don't know what else to add to the list, to be honest, but we'll see what goes on in the last half an hour of the sport class season. Of course, we've still got one more night of racing to go tomorrow, but for these guys, it is their last chance to make a difference this season. As we go back on board with Mark Foley again, to remind you, the candidate for winning the Clean Driver Award tonight, it would take something remarkable for somebody else to from this class. It would be Mark Foley, who's the most realistic, and at the moment, still don't have any notification of him having any incidents, and that's going to help him. Jack Kession just getting loose on the exit of turn 2 and giving him some breathing space for the first time in a while.
Definitely breathing space. I'm sure that was a huge sigh of relief from Mark Foley after that one. Chad actually didn't lose a position, although he might here, because that is Patrick Gill looking on the inside of the De La Roja. Backs out of it, deciding it's not worth trying to throw one in there. So he'll try again later. Avijit Barua in behind them as well. By the way, we do have a leader in this race. We haven't talked about him. Jake Curbino, worth mentioning, he has not had a win yet in Series 12. There he is, the 113 out of New York. Came away with a podium in the very opening round. He missed a couple races in the previous 2 events, but he's come back, and it looks like he's going to try to make up for that lost time.
Yeah, not been here for events 4, 5 or 6. So if you missed 2 events in this series, well, you haven't really got a chance at the championship. Not that he really did anyway, because of his results. As we have a look at Buckley, they're going for a spin out of the second chicane. He gets back going again, though, although his tyres are probably screaming at the moment with the spins he's had in the last couple of moments. Speaking of Jake Curbino, he's into the pit lane. You're absolutely right. He has not finished on the top step of the podium just yet, but he did finish 3rd in the opening round of the season, don't forget. So he does clearly have some level of speed, clearly, as Gill and Barua go side by side through the final corner there.
And Gill's going to abandon that battle as he takes a pit stop. So more of our battles just kind of splitting apart right as we start to inspect them. That'll allow Barua to focus forward, see if he can catch back up to Kession, who was running away from them while we watch Gill hit his marks. And it looks like he does. Nice and tidy. Taking fuel, should be able to emerge relatively quickly, although compared to previous stops, as we heard mentioned by Ewan, these ones are kind of long, about 10 to 12 seconds, whereas the start of the season, it was only about 7 to 6 seconds.
You need a lot more fuel at this circuit than you do at all the others. I kept mentioning it last week anyway, but people are probably sick of me saying it, but it's so different, this circuit, to all the others we've been to this season. So different. And that goes right the way down to the very amount of fuel that you have to put in to these cars. Nearly 20-second pit stops would be race ending as far as your championship or your race hopes goes, apologies. But here, it's absolutely necessary. I remember at Barbara, I think someone made it home at about 6 seconds worth of fuel. You know, that's a third of what we've got around here. It's an extraordinary difference.
Really does drive it home, doesn't it? And these drivers, I guess for those on the oval side, imagine it like going from Martinsville to Talladega. That's kind of what this is like for these drivers. Everything was very stop-start or just very difficult to drive before, and this one is mash that foot down and go as we jump on board with Yerxa now in the number 54 as he heads towards the Parabolica.
Yeah, into the final corner on this circuit. He's chasing down Avijit Barua just up ahead of us here in that 4th place, using a lot of lock there to get it turned in. Not necessarily advised that, really. Your tyres will be screaming at the end of the race. Certainly just behind him, Ken Eskridge is trying to work his way through. Not Ken's best race so far this season, but he has been making some progress in the last few minutes. Looking at the inside here of Yerxa, is he just pushing him though? It looks like he's just going to push Yerxa. He's clearly got his eyes set on positions further up ahead.
Yes, he does. As they break into that one, back and forth, the cars slowly trying to find the grip through that corner, all pretty much mechanical grip with as tight as those chicanes are. But it's a little bit of a better run from Peter, who gets himself out of it first. And while Ken pulls up on him, I don't think we'll see any of that bump drafting coming down to this chicane this time. So he'll maybe sneak up to that rear bumper back onto the main straight if he fancies doing that again. Ken Eskridge is in 3rd in this championship, but it was a much more distant hope for him to come away with the title, and he definitely needs to be a little farther up than 5th.
Yeah, certainly. We're still waiting. So we've had a sort of flurry of pit stops in the last couple of moments, by the way. Trying to make sense of this race is not very easy. So we're kind of waiting for the top 12 bar Garbino and McDonald, who've already made their stops, to come into the pit lane and really start to let this field take shape, if you like. For the moment, we've got a real mismatch of drivers, who some of which are where they should be and some aren't where they shouldn't be, or whatever. So Jake Garbino's currently stuck in the middle of, although he's found a bit of clean air, he's currently stuck in the middle of lots of drivers who haven't stopped yet. There you can see it on the left-hand side. He's completely alone in the top 10 as having stopped already, but the ones around him haven't. So this race really does need a bit of time to sort itself out, really.
You know, with you mentioning Garbino pitting early, I went and checked to see what he looked like in terms of traffic. He picked a beautiful spot. There is nobody around him. So that timing was actually quite excellent. He got it done early, and now he can just focus on his own race and not have to worry about the fuel strategy from here. Ken, in the meantime, is still with other cars behind Yurtsa and Avijit Barua. This is for third place, but as we mentioned, that's going to kind of change around once those pit stops do happen, and they'll hand a couple of those spots back. Barua will continue to hold on to that P3 there.
I think Ankerberg Sonner's just got off the road at the final corner in front of Aaron Nations, actually. He was sixth, I think, or unless he's disconnected entirely.
He's pitted from what it looks like.
Oh, he's pitted, that's why. Sorry, I didn't see the pit notification. That was exceptionally weird. He's dropped down in a normal fashion in that sense, though. So that's all fine. But yeah, it is very, very mixed up as things stand, and we're still waiting for quite a lot of pit stops. But you're right, there is a real clump of traffic down towards the back end of the lead lap, and you might be thinking, well, you know, it's blue flagged for the leader, so surely it'd be okay. But it can still cost you time, even if the blue flag drivers are doing everything they should. It can still cost you time as a race leader. So normally it is quite puzzling to see a race leader be the first one in, because they should be in the clean air. But actually, it's entirely plausible that Jake Garbino wasn't, and he made a good call to come in, because he's got 9 seconds up to Aaron Nations, the next car ahead of him.
Good catch on that. Yeah, that could be a good explanation as to why he pitted when he did. The lead's going to change hands again as Karachai, who was leading the race, also pits now. We're getting close to that marker you were talking about. 22 minutes left to go. Foley is going to follow him in. Is Barua also? Are we already at the end of it? Yeah, it looks like it.
We're pretty much at the end of the tank, though Ken Escridge has managed to squeeze out a last little drop, as has Aaron Nations. But, oh no, sorry, that's a lap car. That's not Aaron Nations. So he may well come in with these guys. But on board with Peter Yurtsa, just up ahead of us here is Avijit Barua. Just the three ahead have already made their stops. Karachai is going to be a bit close to Garbino here, by the way, in the lead of this race. And that is notable, because Garbino had a very big lead earlier, but Karachai is really pushing him on the exit here. Karachai is on his way, and he's not that far behind race leader Jake Garbino.
Watching to see how that's going to wind out once the numbers kind of settle down and the gap gives us a perspective on things. It looks like it's about 4 seconds, which, yeah, though it is a good gap, it's not impossible if Mehmet has good pace here at the end of the race, as we ride on board with Peter Yurtsa down out of the pit lane, and he's going to be in a bit of a battle when he does so. We'll switch away, though, just as he was about to fight with Albu Haka. Instead, we're looking at Eskridge, who seems to be the fuel whisperer today.
That certainly does. And with those pit stops, by the way, Aaron Nations has made some jumps. He's ahead of even Andrew Long and some others as well. And so he is back in championship winning position, even at this stage. Again, I really think Foley needs a podium place. And at the moment, that's just becoming very, very difficult for him to achieve clearly here, because Casey McDonald is going to be in that position. He's nearly 10 seconds ahead of Mark Foley at the moment. So Foley's main focus is clearly on the Clean Driver Award, because I still think he's been driving very much within himself, even though, because of Nations problems, he really had a chance to win this championship.
Yeah, and maybe I kind of wonder if that's why he wasn't fighting as hard to try and go for the driver's title. He knew that that was going to be a little bit more difficult to make happen, even if Aaron Nations had problem. Chad Casey on in the replay, getting tipped to the side. That was down into the De La Rosa chicane. I think that was Abu Haka that made that contact.
It was, yeah, it was. So that's a position for Abu Haka up to 8th place, and for Gill and Yerkser as well, who are now into the top 10. Ken Eskridge makes his pit stop then, the final pit stop of the Sport Class season, with 20 minutes to go. They do rattle through the fuel a lot quicker in these cars around this circuit than they do elsewhere. 20.3 seconds in the box, one of the longest stops of the season, and now he will be out again, I think inside the top 10, but only just.
Yeah, Foley is going to be able to get by him, so that moves Foley at least back into the top 5. Eskridge returns in 7th. Here goes Avijit Barua on by, so just barely missed out on that one. Couple tenths quicker, he may have had another position as we got a car sideways. That is Mike Saxton. Oh my goodness, a couple drivers getting positions, including Foley.
Yeah, that is a position for Mark Foley, up to 4th position now in the field. That means that Aaron Nations requires 13th place, but he's already in 12th. So Foley needs to move up to at least 2nd as things stand if he wants to win this championship. Abu Haka looks up the inside of Saxon. He's recovering here. Gill is going to close in as well as Yerkser as well. This could be the new train, to be honest, that we were seeing in the first half of the race. This time, though, for 7th place.
That's a good point. Yeah, we had quite the clump of cars there that were battling earlier on. This group replacing that action. Abu Haka, though, I wonder if he'll get a penalty for that contact a little bit earlier. Didn't really get a good look at it from that angle on a replay to make a good judgment, but that's why we have race control to give that a better look and make a call themselves. Nathan approaching Sachs down into the braking of Ascari, but thinking better of it by the time they turn in. Behind them and off course there for, I think that was Yerksa.
Yeah, it was too wide at Ascari, too late on the brakes, couldn't get it turned in, and he's down outside the top 10 actually. Chad Casey was back in again after that spin with Nathan Abu Haka, so it's all changed here, and there's so many mistakes being made, whether solo mistakes or car-to-car incidents, that the positions are very changeable at the moment.
And that puts him within view of Aaron Nations as well. So Aaron could be moving up to 11th to help give himself all the more of a buffer. There is Peter having to cut across and return to the track. It's a little sketchy, but thankfully the other car was very heads up in that situation. Just usually not considered all that wise to get back onto the racetrack in the middle of a corner.
No, not really, but of course, when the only thing that's in your mind really when you're off like that is getting back on as soon as possible, getting back on the tarmac, although you shouldn't, but you know, it's difficult to tell a racing driver to do that. Mike Sachs down in towards the 2nd chicane again for 7th place, still holding back Abu Haka and Gill. It's not quite kicked off here yet. You get the feeling that this is one of those battles that could kick off quite quickly when it does, but for the moment we're just waiting for that.
And that kind of brings up what we talked about a lot during the pro race that surprised us. We figured drivers would kind of wait till the last lap to make a move in these draft trains, but that was not the case for most of them. Maybe that's what this group is doing, just trying to sit patient until we get down to the last couple laps, then start the battle.
Yeah, maybe. That would be the sensible thing to do, I think, but whether that's actually going to happen or not is unclear, really. Aaron Nations still in 12th place, by the way. That's the position he needs, even if Mark Foley's in 3rd place. So Nations is in a strong position as things stand, but the record books are going to show a pretty tight championship by the end, to be honest, as the bottom of the screen shows about for 7th.
Yeah, pass around the outside maybe, coming into Parabolica for Nathan. He's not going to sit and wait for that last lap. He's going for it now and coming off the corner while he has that outside line to try and open up the steering wheel. He is unfortunately, well, no, he will have the run. He's going to get the speed, and it's going to continue to be a fight as they come into the braking for the first corner. It's a game of chicken here inside for Mike Sachs, but he's a little bit more timid on those brakes.
Oh.
Barely room between them at the apex. Great job by both drivers. Brave stuff from Abu Haka to cross over and cut off the apex from him, but pass made. He's into 7th. Real quick, I do want to mention if you want to keep your racing clean and your body cleaner with mohandsome.com, men's skincare and grooming products, that's something you'll likely need after working up a sweat in your sim rig. Their products are designed and manufactured right here in the USA. Made from natural ingredients with low fragrance, Mo Handsome products are filled with good stuff to keep your skin and hair healthy. These race-winning natural formulas and the sports car liveried containers will appeal to grizzled veterans and fresh-faced hot shoes alike. Use code GOMOPCA to get a very special 25% off your purchases at mohandsome.com. Go ahead and grab one as a holiday gift today. We've got, when did Karachai get ahead of Gerbino?
Into turn one, I think. The second chicane on this lap. I think Jet Gerbino has been struggling for the last couple of moments. It's been a mistake, actually. I thought he was struggling. He's made a mistake at the second chicane. He's had to pull to the right-hand side, serving a slowdown. And Mehmet Karachai has had one of the easiest passes for the lead he'll ever have.
Now the question is, can he hold on to it? It's been impressive, putting himself in the right position here, emerging from the pit stop within range. But now he's only got half a second between himself and Jake. And as we know, if they've got that slipstream, it could be easy to roll up to the back of your rival, as Mike Sachs is discovering, because Abu Haka on him once again. Mike Sachs going to try and repass, get that position. He's into P7 as Nathan abandons it.
And by the way, Nathan Abu Haka, as things stand, is probably well placed to do that, because he would move up to fourth in the championship if things stay as they are. Rex Jarawala is a very long way back as things stand. In fact, so far back, he's in danger of this becoming his drop round. He's still doing just about good enough, but for the moment, Abu Haka would move up to fourth. Nations as well would hang on to his championship win, because he's back in the top 10 again right now. And only a win now for Mark Foley would overtake Nations in this current position.
Chad Casion had a big slip up into turn one, and that handed the position over. There was a little bit of contact, but it didn't look like something that would give a penalty to either car, honestly. They both got away with it, and it may have even been a bit of netcode, honestly. But Aaron Nations, as you mentioned, top 10. Can he hold it there for the final 12 minutes of this race? Mike Sachs, what are we going to see on the replay? Oh, facing the wrong way, apparently.
When did that happen? He's still ahead of Nathan Abu Haka somehow. So maybe, so this is how he dropped into this in the first place. So this is a little bit of time ago, but that is quite helpful to know, because previously he was in the battle in the group sort of around fourth place with Foley, Barua and Eskridge, but that's how he drops himself out of that and into this group, which he now heads.
Speaking of Eskridge, by the way, up 10 in this race. And then Casey McDonald ahead of him in third, up 8 in this race. Definitely some drivers doing impressive stuff at the sharper end of the field. Oh,
sorry, that's someone a lap down there. That's Charlie Ferret. That wasn't as important as I thought it was. It was right in front of Aaron Nations. So I thought that might be disastrous, but it was actually okay. Abu Haka back on the outside of Mike Sachs, by the way, in the current position. Abu Haka only needs 11th to move up into fourth in the championship, but he wants more than that outside line. Sachs has too late, and he's been spun around as Nathan Abu Haka was crowded on the outside line. Sachs spins trying to get going again as well.
And on top of all that, Patrick Gill had a little bit of a disconnect problem. He returns to the track, but he takes those two positions with ease, moves to the seventh. Nathan Abu Haka, black flag for too many incident points. Wow. Nothing he can do to refute that one. He has to go serve that.
He does, although this incident point wasn't his fault. That was down the inside from Mike Sachs. Too late on the brakes, as we see so many times in these cars, especially in that big stop before turn one. It is so difficult to get it stopped in time. So with that, Nathan Abu Haka is going to drop down to about 16th, where Carl Bartieri is. And as things stand, that would only be 10 points gained on Rex Jarawala. Not enough to overhaul the 23-point deficit at the start of the day.
Oh, leaders are side by side again. Gerbino's just taking the lead away, coming down into Parabolica, sweeps around the outside. Karachai can't stop him. Wonder if he now was the one with a bad exit out of Ascari. Not typical that you'll see it pass into the final corner at this track. So now it is Karachai who is on the back foot.
I think it was bad exit rather than slow down, by the way. I think that's the important distinction to make there. But yes, Karachai has lost the lead. 10.5 minutes to go. We're at the sort of distance from the end now that we can, feasibly have a battle to the end, but maybe not like that. Karachai locks up into the first chicane, and that might be that. He's got a real job in his hands to get back on terms now.
Good news for him is he's got 5.5 seconds down to Casey McDonald, but as he accelerates away, Jake Gerbino becomes a smaller speck in his windscreen, and that might be all she wrote for that one. So, with Mike Sachs having his incident, with Nathan Abuhaka having to serve that penalty for too many incidents, Aaron Nations has moved back into 8th. Again, has done all that he needs to do, albeit with a few problems along the way, and there's what put Mehmet Karaçay potentially out of the race win today.
I mean, the length to which he was locked up there as well won't have done his tyres any favours at all either. So this job is even more difficult now. 3.5 seconds would be anyway in 9.5 minutes, but it's almost impossible with surely the state of those tyres after that long lockup. And so after all of this, the top 5 in the championship, despite so much change throughout the day, they're actually going to stay the same as they were at the beginning.
Oh, goodness. Weird stuff happening in this race, that is for sure, as we watch the fight between Ken Eskridge and Avijit Barua. Oh, Carl Boccieri with a big clip, and I didn't quite make out who that was, but sent them trailing off into the gravel there.
No, didn't catch who that was either, actually. But somebody, I don't know, into the second chicane. It's a spin in front of whoever that is. Trying to identify with a number is very difficult from there.
It looks like Bulkley's car,
Maybe.
I think.
Yeah, he's about in the right place, isn't he, I suppose, in the field. So that looks about right. Yeah, only going to help now for Abuhaka, but with Rex Jarawala actually now starting to gain some places, he is starting to get into a stronger position now. So anyway, it looks like that is done, and the battles on the circuit are purely just that now, as we look at Anke Bergson. Too far on the left-hand side and over that final bit of the curb and smashes into the wall at Ascari.
Couldn't quite avoid the barrier. A lot of drivers have done that over the years, so can't feel too ashamed on that. If you're wondering why Charlie Ferrer has suddenly moved to the back and left the track, unfortunately he was disqualified from this race. So won't be seeing him. He will be classified as last on the field. Coming back to the fight between Avijit and Ken. This is for a top 5 finishing position. And Ken could move up 11 spots from where he gridded. He's already got the most cars passed in this race.
Yeah, it's been a great performance from Ken Eskridge. And actually, I think you mentioned cars passed. I actually think a lot of them he passed in the pit lane, so not really at all, which is the best way to do it, of course. He had a great run during that pit stop cycle, going longer than anybody else, which is impressive in itself when he's been passing so many people in the first stint. And then he got through on a load more and sort of skipped the group, to be honest, that Aaron Nations is now in further back. He sort of just skipped that, really. And he's now suddenly in the battle for the top 5 positions. It's been a great race from Ken Eskridge and a great way to end his season, which should end with a 3rd place in this championship. So a well done to him on a great job, it looks like, in this final race.
I know that was not snow coming off the back of Barua's car. That was all the gravel that has been dragged onto the track that they're having to go through on there. So we come down the main straight. Avijit trying to just get far enough away and break the slipstream from Ken Eskridge. Does look like he's done a pretty good job getting too distant from the 77. And yeah, he can't quite make the move. Here's Ben Bulkley. And what happens out of the second Lesmo with him? Oh, car just snaps from underneath him and off into the gravel he goes. Ooh, that could have been a little bit of a sketchy rejoin.
Yeah, he's, well, you could say just about timed it right, or it was a sketchy rejoin, your choice. Mike Sachs, meanwhile, drive through the pit lane at the end of that lap. That is for forcing another driver off track. Is that Nathan Abuhaka, I think it was, in towards turn 1, wasn't it? We saw a few moments ago. So that contact earned him a drive-through penalty. Yeah,
it's exactly what that one was for. Unfortunately for him, it was going from a potential podium for the 599 to now looking like 15th, maybe 14th, if he could catch up to Anke Bergson up in front of him. Aaron Nations, is he going to get another one? Patrick Gill coming off the corner, pulls off to the right-hand side. I don't think he's completely letting him through, but he knows that he had a bad exit there, and Nations is on a march.
He certainly is. You've got to take your hat off to Aaron Nations here today. He's surely going to win this title now with just 5 minutes to go. He's on the inside line making a pass for 7th that arguably he doesn't need to do at all, but he is making it anyway, making the case that he has been the strongest driver this season, and bar that little stumble at Summit Point where he didn't finish, he's been on the podium in every other race than this one up and towards today. Obviously today hasn't gone the way he was hoping for either, to be honest, but it's shown great resilience that he's been to the back outside the top 10, outside a championship winning position on 2 separate occasions, and he's come back through to secure what we think is going to be a victory provisionally, of course.
Ooh, big run from Patrick Gill, though. Is he going to try and repass him? Yes, he is. Moves to the inside, coming down into the braking. Nations needs to be careful here. He doesn't necessarily need that 7th place, so he has to try and make it to the finish and keep it clean. He is going to allow Patrick Gill through. And yeah, it's not the most graceful race we've seen out of Aaron Nations, but definitely a champion's drive in the end if he could just bring it home for 5 more minutes. Boccieri also been given a black flag. Not sure if we mentioned that, so he's going to have to serve that one here in a bit. That battle between Gerbino and Karachai, Mehmet's actually cut it down to 2.7 seconds, so he's gained a little bit, but I think it's kind of too little too late there.
Yeah, it was out at 3.5, so he's cutting into it certainly, but it took him quite a long time to catch in the first place, and that was sort of happening away from our cameras, sort of under our noses, really, and away from anybody else's notice, but it was happening slowly, which is the point there. And since he made that mistake with less than 10 minutes to go, he couldn't really afford to do any more catching slowly. He's had to do it quickly, and that's not been possible really, as Aaron Nations looks up the inside and doesn't quite go for it into Ascari. Probably the right decision, but he'll be slightly nervous about Casey and Yerkser catching him from behind.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is only 1.2 seconds back there to the cars behind him, so there is some motivation for him to try and make that pass. Again, doesn't necessarily have to, but if he wants to ensure the championship, he needs to make sure 8th or better is on the cards for him. This is all provisional, barring investigation after the race, making sure that race control is happy with how everything went, but unofficially he would be champion. This is very close this time. This is a much better run coming out of the final corner, but he is going to have to do it the long way around as Patrick holds the inside under braking, both of them going as deep as they dare, and Patrick will remain in that 7th spot.
Yeah, he's proving to be a little bit of an irritant now for Aaron Nations. Perfectly entitled, of course, to hold on to his 7th position here in the closing minutes of this race. But Aaron Nations would probably rather he didn't, to be honest. Casey and Yerkser, as I say, catching from behind, although they're sort of consumed by their own battle now, knowing that with only 2 minutes to go, even if they do catch this battle for 7th place, there's very little chance of them ripping through the 2 up ahead of them to get 7th anyway.
Yeah, this is all for fun between these two, no doubt. So, here we go, down the inside, coming into the first Lesmo. Aaron's going to take the apex away. He'll have a repeat of that with the second Lesmo, same direction, down to the right-hand side, little wide there from Patrick, and he gives up the ghost finally. In fact, now he's slow. Casey and Yerkser might have him on the ropes.
Yeah, maybe in hindsight gave up the ghost a little bit too late there. And here comes Casey on the other side now. And Yerkser as well on the right-hand side. This could be trouble for Patrick Gill as he sees 7th place slip away. Maybe 8th and 9th as well. Oh, he's diving deep on the brakes there on the inside. He's done well to hang on to 8th place. And Casey's just going to be pushed back by that. And here comes Yerkser as well. Gill does well to hang on to 8th in the end after that long battle with Aaron Nations.
Tell you what, Patrick Gill is really full of fervor today. He is fighting for every little bit, especially up against our points leader. Most drivers maybe would be scared away of that, thinking I don't want to ruin his race necessarily. And Patrick says that's his problem, not mine. I'm going to race you for that position. Even when he gets beat, he'll race those behind, braking too deep for them to try and survive down into the corner. And he'll have to try and catch back up to Aaron Nations, which he's doing fairly well, actually.
Yeah, certainly. What we're about to see here on the replay. Oh, Andrew Long having quite a long spin there, actually, out of Parabolica. The rear tyres were going away from him for a very long time indeed there, but he recovers and should finish 13th as long as nothing else goes wrong. So that's how his race has gone down in the back. Seconds remaining, by the way. I'm not sure, because it's quite close, whether this actually is the last lap or not.
I think it is the last lap because, yeah, it's a scary for Gerbino right now. So we watch Nations come into the Lesmos here. So he should be wrapping this up this lap as well. Yeah, Jake Gerbino gets the white flag last time by, and now the much desired checkered flag being held aloft up at the stand for the 113. It started off with so much promise as he took a podium finish, but hasn't returned to that at all season. Now in the final one, not only does he get to spray the champagne, he does so from the top step. Jake Gerbino wins in Monza.
A fantastic drive from Jake Gerbino, holding off the pressure from Mehmet Karachai throughout a lot of that race, and eventually getting his first win of the season right when it mattered. Ken Eskridge is not quite going to get fifth place here by the looks of things, but in the background, Aaron Nations is coming through the final corner now in 7th place.
Nicely done by Avijit Barua and Mark Foley in front of them, getting a 4th place. In a moment, we'll have the tally of incidents, so we'll see what that winds up. Kaysion and Yerkes are still battling to the line, and they're going to be separated by all about 0.03 of a second as they come across the timing beam, with Peter getting 9th and Kaysion getting 10th.
Yeah, so Aaron Nations with that 7th place finish should be the champion of this series. Of course, provisional here in the Porsche Club of America Sport Class. However, it should be Aaron Nations who takes the victory here on points. Not the day that he was expecting at all. He ends up losing 9 points actually to Mark Foley, so the ending gap is going to be 19. But a close season certainly deserves a close finishing championship standings. That's certainly what we're going to have. It should be Aaron Nations, followed by Mark Foley, Ken Eskridge, Rex Jarawala and Nathan Obahaka, who didn't quite do enough at the very end there to get the points he needed. However, those, of course, are all provisional, and indeed, that's how they started the day, bizarrely.
That's a good point. Also, a reminder that Charlie Mobile is sponsoring the Series 12 Clean Driver Award. Charlie Mobile is providing the winner with an Apple iPhone 16 and a year of cell service. Thank you to Charlie Mobile. So, Mark Foley might be walking away with an Apple iPhone 16 after tomorrow night's race. But for tonight's race, it was Jake Gerbino with the victory. Boy, he had a threat for it, because Mehmet Karachai, you can't disregard what a race he put on. Casey McDonald's also with a quiet 3rd place today. Mark Foley was in the 4th spot, we think potentially claiming the Clean Driver Award, as Avijit Barua was 5th and Ken Eskridge was P6. Aaron Nations, a 7th place from pole, is not going to sound great, but it's going to be great knowing that should unofficially clinch the championship, as Patrick Gill was 8th, and then Peter Yerkes was 9th. Chad Kaysion rounds out your top 10.
Just outside of that was Chris Costis, who was up and down like a bit of a pogo stick today, but he finished 11th and finished well. Nathan Obahaka needed a couple of extra positions to gain a place in the championship unofficially, but he finished 12th in the end, ahead of Andrew Long, who had that late spin out of Parabolica. But Anke Bergson had that late spin out of Ascari and got down to 14th. Mike Sachs dropped down with that late drive-through after contact with Nathan Obahaka. He finished 15th, but of Randy Lervold, the last drive within a minute of the win. Ben Buckley finished 17th, but of James Lego. Rex Jarawala, who finished in 19th and 4th in the championship unofficially, and Albonto Fonseca rounding out the top 20.
Last drive on the lead lap was Carl Boccieri. Kevin Schultz was a lap down in 22nd. Tora Gianna was in at 23rd, and then Sean Bailey 24th with Charlie Fair. The only DNF with a disqualification on that one. You want to know how many incidents Foley had today?
I could guess.
Big old goose egg. None. That whole race. Unbelievable.
It is. It's the 3rd time, by the way, he's done it this season. He did it at Donington Park and Willow Springs as well. He only got 1 incident point at Barber, Brands Hatch and Summit Point. Obviously, as you mentioned earlier, you do get a drop round, so the 11 he got from Mount Panorama don't count towards his total. He ends the season with just 3 incident points unofficially. That is remarkable.
I'd be very curious what the total would be between everyone. We'll have to figure that out if they would still be champion with that. But yeah, it's a very small amount. Anyways, we do have our winner ready to talk to us, Jake Urbino. So let's get his thoughts on this race. Because, man, Jake, you didn't have it all your own way out there. Mehmet looked like he gave you a run for your money.
Yeah, it was a little bit nerve-rattling there, but glad I was able to keep my composure and pull it back in for the win.
That you did. Now, one thing that intrigued us is it's not typical for the front runners, especially the leader, to pit early, which is what you did. Was there a reason? Was there traffic or something coming up, or was it just you saw a gap and you went for it?
No, main reason was just I felt tires were getting a bit hot. I wanted to give them a chance to cool down, so not really traffic related, and thankfully it came back out in a nice open gap. Didn't have to deal with too much traffic on the outlap either.
Interesting. You know, one of the features that we noticed with this track was that this is nothing like all the other very technical and sometimes very confined circuits that we have. How did it feel to get to stretch your legs out today?
Oh, it was fantastic. You know, Monza is just one of those legendary tracks. You know, it's the temple of speed, right? So it's an interesting challenge to be a bit more fast and flowing rather than tight and technical, and I definitely enjoy this style of track.
Well, again, congratulations. Your first win of Series 12. Enjoy the offseason.
Great. Thank you guys so much in the booth. And hi to all my coworkers. And thanks to my wife, my coach, Eric Sutton. And thanks to you guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you in Season 13.
That was Jake Urbino, our winner here today. And behind him, trying to challenge for that win, was Mehmet Karaçay. I believe Ewan has caught up with him.
Yes, I certainly have. Congratulations on second place. Thanks very much for coming to chat to us as well. We've heard Jake's side of the story. Tell us about yours, at your side of that battle there for the win between yourself and Jake.
Hey, thank you first of all, and well, I would like to thank my wife and kids before I forget. Yeah, that was a super fun race, and Jake was super fast. I mean, it started at quali. I tried to catch up with him. Yeah, I had an opportunity, and I finally managed to pass him. But yeah, I couldn't. You know, like, unfortunately, I made a small mistake, and he capitalized on it, and he pretty much finished, you know, spot on, error free from there on.
Yeah, but however, this is your best result of the season so far. This is your first podium, first top 5 as well. How do you reflect on this season now that it is complete?
Yeah, you know, and I couldn't. Yeah, I think I had 2 drop weeks, so I know I wasn't in the contention. And even though I like the Bathurst, it's one of my favorite. It was a disaster for me. Yeah, it's been a fun season. It's been a rough season. For sure, you know, like, the competition is pretty, you know, like, tough out here.
Well, congratulations on finishing second in this tough race, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Hey, thank you guys.
Thanks very much. Mehmet Karaçay there, the second place finisher tonight, his best result of the season.
And up next, we've got Casey McDonald, who finished in 3rd this time. Casey, congratulations on the podium, and also apologies for the mistaken identity earlier in the season. To be fair, there are worse people than real-world racing champions to be mistaken for, and I'd say you put in a champion's drive today to come to 3rd, up from 11th.
Yeah, I can't believe it. It was a shocker for me. I've been struggling to get back up here. It's been a long time. It's the first time this season for me. And as far as the other McDonald's goes, I just didn't want to do him a bad name. That's why I told you about it.
It's understandable. Let's talk about the start of the race, though. I didn't realize until I went back and checked here afterwards, you narrowly avoided being involved in that opening spin at the first chicane. Were you even aware of that? Did you get any notification of car contact? It looked that close.
Well, yeah, I know. I knew that there was car contact because about 3 or 4 corners later, I had another bump with Rex, and all of a sudden I was told I had 8 incident points. And then the next corner, I think I got another one. I'm at 9. I'm like, I'm not finishing this race. I'm done. But it worked out.
Yeah, I noticed that. I checked, and you had 10 at the end of it from what I'm seeing. So a little bit tight, but it, like you said, you kind of ended it on a high. So what does that tell you for Series 13? Are you going to be back and hope for more of these podiums, or do you expect to be maybe shifted up to one of the other classes? What's the expectation?
As far as class goes, wherever I end up, it's like, I'm learning about this thing still, and I'm just having a kick in the pants time. And as far as being on the podium goes, I want a lot more of them. I like talking to you guys at the end of the race, so it makes me feel good, and I want to see more of those.
I like talking to you as well. Again, congratulations, and hopefully that'll get to happen in Series 13.
Thanks, Joe.
Casey McDonald finishing P3. We got another quick one, I believe, as I think Ewan is going to catch up with our unofficial clean driver winner, Mark Foley.
Yes, I certainly will. Welcome in, Mark. Congratulations on unofficially becoming the Clean Driver Award winner of Season 12. Let's chat first of all about Monza before we get into the wider stuff. I suspected at certain parts of this race today you especially had that on your mind in terms of not getting any incident points, which you managed to achieve by the end. Just how much was the Clean Driver Award on your mind towards the end, and how much were you just out there racing, having fun?
Yeah, in the past I focus on other things besides just clean driving and racing, and that has never worked. So I just concentrated on hitting my lines and keeping it clean and consistent, and it all paid off in the end.
You finished second place in the championship in the end as well, the overall point standings. In some stages, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, some stages tonight you were actually in championship winning position with Aaron Nations bouncing up and down all day long. Just how was that, and how has the season been ending up with you in second place?
It's been a fantastic season. Aaron's been extremely consistent, and at one time I looked up and noticed he was not in front of me anymore, and I said, well, maybe there's an opportunity here. So again, we just kept with the old strategy of keeping it clean and hitting the marks and see how it shakes out in the end, but it was a lot of fun.
All right, well, congratulations on second in the point standings and the Clean Driver Award, unofficially the winner as well. Congratulations on that, Mark, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks to Mo Handsome and Charlie Mobile for sponsoring this Clean Driver. This is a great opportunity, and really a big thanks to all the PCA admins, instructors, and all the drivers. This is a really great league and a lot of fun.
Thanks very much. Mark Foley, fourth place tonight, second place in the points.
Before he goes away, hold on.
Oh, sorry, Joe, go on.
Yep, 1 second. Apologies. We actually have Rex Jarawala to present that. Rex, do you have a copy?
Copy.
If you want to do the honors, I understand you have the joy of getting to hand the prize to our winner.
I do. I am the ambassador for Charlie Mobile for the league, and Mark, congratulations on a awesome season. Driving with you out here, I know how hard it is to keep a clean race. So you've earned an iPhone and 1 year of free service with Charlie Mobile. Congrats, my man.
Well, thank you very much, Rex, and thank you, Charlie Mobile. It's been a lot of fun, and I know you and I, Rex, have battled and keeping it clean, and it's been always on my mind. The Charlie Mobile is very much appreciated, and I look forward to the next season.
Thanks, Mark.
So that was Rex Jarawala on behalf of Charlie Mobile, giving the award over to Mark Foley, who is our Clean Driver Award winner this season, which should wrap us up this time. So can't give everyone a big enough thank you for coming out. Make sure and join us, because we are not done yet. Tomorrow night, December 19th, the challenge class will wrap up season 12. Big thank you goes to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, as well as our team tonight, Ramiro, and of course Ewan. And thank you for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. Until next time, I'm Joe Peak. Race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.